Hello, Madristas. Welcome to another episode, or rather, very, very unfortunate and depressing episode of Let's Be Real. We're here today after the chastening at the Bernabeu from the guys from London. It's very unfortunate, but we still have to do housekeeping. Before we do that, we have to talk about the fact that we're part of the Talksport Fan Network. This episode is brought to you by Fanatics as well as um, Manscaped. So just check the descriptions out. The actual links are in the description below. Today is not the most smoothest day, but yeah, we are joined today, with our usual, partner, Sahel. Sahel, let's get you like, how are you feeling, man, after what you just witnessed?
I'm broken, man. It's not a usual feeling for us to go out of the Champions League, let alone in this fashion, being humiliated. And at the end of the day, Farouk, we did it to ourselves. No, we built up this whole hype, right? All this chatter about remontada leading into this game, and then we crumbled at our, you know, at our fortress. So it had to happen eventually. Some team had to come here and outplay us, and in the end of the day, it was a rather remarkable Arsenal side that you know had the better of us over two legs. It's not even as if they had moments and then they stole the win away from us. It was not like that. Sure, Declan Rice's goals in the first leg was something that doesn't happen every other week, but even apart from that, I think you could very very confidently make a case for them being outrightly deserving winners over two legs.
Absolutely, like, there is nothing to say to that, like it's yeah, even today, like you can understand the first leg you went there, you got played, like yeah, we had the goals and everything. But even today, like, it's not like we sit back and be like, oh, it's just that first leg was too much, like, nah, that wasn't the case. Like even today, we weren't just down for it. Like they had more shots on target, then also they had more expected goals, and they created more clear-cut chances, they were able to do stuff, and we were just there, like, passengers really, like we couldn't even be half-hearted about it. We couldn't. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, like if these players are not motivated, for days like this, if these players are not able to perform on nights like this, then you keep wondering, like, then what's the motivation there? But I don't know, like, what's next then for this group of players?
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree that Arsenal outplayed us in every other aspect, and even the basics that we would have expected, this Madrid side to have dominated and created more chances, created more opportunities, and then if things didn't go our way, sure, some things truly did not go our way. The referee did not help. Some things like that, could have gone better, but that's part of the game that happens every other week. We definitely could have given ourselves a better chance. There were some tactical decisions that obviously people feel like they wouldn't agree with Ancelotti. Uh, a few players that you can point fingers at, but at the end of the day, it's the whole team, Lord. It's the whole team that goes down, and some individuals can take some more of the blame than others, but we just weren't up for it, man. Like
That's the thing, like
mentally,
honestly.
physically, we were done.
But if we aren't up to it, like you mentioned tactics and what is not, but like how much would you blame on the coach? Because everyone knows that I've even since the first Champions League win in the return of Carlo, I've always been like, nah, this guy's not the guy to lead this team forward. But like watching this game, you kind of feel like, is there actually any coach that can lead this group of players? Because you could, to a lot of extent, you can, fault the coach, you can fault the coaching staff, you can fault the tactics. But what the blame you cannot lay at the feet of the coach is if these players are not able to perform at this level.
So here's the thing, like it's a buildup of everything that accumulates throughout the course of the season, and it's a compounding of the efforts that the coaching staff puts in uh, to making this team look more and more like a unit, which this season, let's be honest, has absolutely not happened. So that's my take on it. Like we have not seen a free flowing version of this team for a long time now, with the exception of say 1.5 months stretch in the between. Um, but apart from that, there's not been one stretch of games where everything is clicked and everything has gone to plan. There's always some part of it, and sure, the players, the injuries, the intensity, the schedule, all of it has partly to blame. But I'm pretty sure most of the Madridista fan base also resonates with me on this. Like, if there was going to be a breaking point for Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid, this probably was it. Like, uh, I don't think we're going to be waiting around too much now. The writing seems to be on the wall with Ancelotti. That's the way I look at it. I know you can look at it differently as well, but yeah.
Actually, I do disagree with that. I do feel like if Carlo rallies the boys and it's only 4 points behind Barcelona, like May 11, literally in 1 month, you go to the renewed Camp Nou and you get a result there. You could find yourself 1 point behind. In literally 10 days, in 2 weeks, you play Barcelona in Seville for the Copa del Rey title. You win that, all of a sudden everything is looking, of course, like we're not gonna forget this. But what I'm trying to say here is that like we lost 4-0 to Man City at the Etihad
Yeah.
and Carlo retained his job.
But at that point in Carlos' second tenure, it still felt like there was more for him to give and there was more for this group of players to take from him. I'm not sure even the players feel like that at this point, because it does seem like the latter end of a project that has come to fruition, and then now it's sort of dissolving, and all the ugly bits are coming to the fore. And as far as the players stand, obviously you cannot be someone as outspoken as Vinicius Jr., someone with the level of stardom that Kylian Mbappe has, or with the talent that Rodrigo and Jude Bellingham have, and not perform in these games and not show up in a game of this magnitude. So they are obviously to blame, but the bigger picture does consist of the manager.
I get you. I get you. But for me, I just felt like, of course, you can always, there are a lot of things you can fault with Carlo, and everyone knows, like how outspoken I am about him. But I just feel like I would not be surprised if he's retained as a coach. And I do feel like, honestly,
Yeah,
these players, this group of players, all of them 1 to 11. Okay, let's take away one. Thibaut did what he could do. You cannot say anything about Thibaut across the last two games. But other than
right.
that, you look at 1 through 11, like, okay, let's say 2 through 11, and you think like, is there a player that actually you feel like, okay, like understood what tonight meant? Was there a player who actually wanted it more than the Arsenal players? I'm sorry, I don't think so.
Probably not even Fede Valverde. Like,
Exactly. That's the thing I was gonna say now. It's even sad that the one player that I've okay, one, and then after that Jude, alongside Jude,
yeah,
like these are the two players that I've always thought like, yeah, whatever happens, this guy are gonna do what they need to do, what they can do, what they should do. All across the last two matches, man, I'm looking at, bro, Rice is the English general, bro. Who the hell is
yeah.
Jude Bellingham when Declan Rice is there? This is
But
just what
Farooq, you do
they've shown,
think
man.
you do think turning around La Liga possibly, and Copa del Rey success, which again is against Barcelona, can save the state of our season. Again, that's a different thing from saving Ancelotti's job. It may be enough to save the season, but not Ancelotti's job. So that's a different thing.
Actually, I do think he doesn't save our season, but it saves Carlo Ancelotti's job.
Right. Okay.
Because I do feel like, I mean, I've always said this, like, but after today, I reverse myself. I've always said, like, this is an unspectacular Arsenal team. You understand? But after today, I take back my words and I do put respect to Arsenal. And, like, I feel like I have disrespected, most likely, maybe. Like, I have disrespected them, but, like, yeah, you know, hats down. Just, you have to lay down, put to respect that. Arteta has a very, very well-drilled team. You can say whatever you want about, oh, they score, they don't score, the set pieces, whatever. The point is they put five past Real Madrid across two games. You
Right.
understand? So you have to put respect there. And there was no second that in that tie across 180 minutes that
But they were
looked
not
like
in
Real
control.
Madrid were in control.
Yeah.
Zero. They conceded a goal out of pure mistake, out of pure negligence by
Yeah.
the one player that you expect to not even not commit a mistake.
Yeah,
Kivior,
that's the funny bit to
bro,
me.
Miles Kelly, bro, what the hell?
Is he 18, Farooq?
Yeah, Miles Kelly, I think he's 18, yeah.
We need to put some respect on that guy's name. The way he ran circles around our midfield across
Oh,
two legs, and this guy started as a left back.
Miles Kelly,
The
respect,
responsibility on
bro,
his
mad
shoulders.
respect. Mad. Honestly, like I said, like man, you've won through 11 for Arsenal, mad respect, bro. Honestly, Mikel Merino, the way he's able to, set up, hold up the play and set up, put other players into, into the right position, release those passes at the right time. Crazy, absolutely crazy. It's mad what those guys have done or what those guys are doing. It's absolutely mad, honestly. Credit to
Yeah,
Arsenal, they're
true.
gonna be a problem to
You
anyone.
have
I know
to.
Paris also is a problem, but yeah, Arsenal against Paris is gonna be quite an interesting game to watch, honestly. Mad, mad, mad.
No, absolutely.
It's
And when you think of Arteta as Arsenal, right? You watch this team across two legs, and you put your hands up and you appreciate how complete they are, because you think of, okay, well, they're positionally very fluid, and they like to keep the ball, but out of possession, man, this team is rock solid. One bank of five and another of three, and they had us locked down, so
Yep,
compact. And every chance on the counter they were up for it. It wasn't even like they were there just to defend. It was they had come there with a clear, and obviously they had to defend a lead, but they were still trying to score, and they were still trying to hurt us on the counter. So that mentality is obviously what defines this Arsenal team, and the character that Mikel Arteta has instilled into some of these boys like Saka, Martinelli, even Odegaard. Even he wasn't even that bad tonight. Like, I know he was one of the players that was missing in the first leg, uh, that didn't play that well, but obviously we have to mention Declan Rice as well. Two man of the match awards against Real Madrid. Reminds me of N'Golo Kante.
yeah,
Just ran the show.
yeah, sure. And that's the thing, like actually, I feel like this season we've had a lot of really good matchups. I was seeing some portion of the game of Villa against Paris yesterday, and then of course like Barcelona against Borussia Dortmund, and then you saw what happened, at the San Siro with Inter and Bayern Munich.
Right, right.
And you look at that eight teams and you feel like, bro, like, is it a blessing these guys at Real Madrid actually got knocked out? Because if not today, it's gonna be the next round. Because
Yeah.
all those teams are creating chances, clear cut chances upon clear cut chances.
And Real
Real
Madrid is the
Madrid
only
had
exception.
zero. I'm sorry?
Real Madrid is the only exception. First
Real
shot on
Madrid is
target,
the only
56th minute.
exception. It's crazy, man. How wow, like it's wow, I don't know, man. Because even when we lost 4-0 to City, I remember I think we drew the first leg at the Bernabeu. I don't remember what the scoreline was, but I
One
remember we
one
drew
all,
the
one
first
all.
leg. 1-1,
Vinicius
right?
scored
1-1.
from long range. Yeah.
We do the first leg at the Bernabeu. At least, like there was like, oh, hope going into that, like you'll be like, oh, the game is a bit even and stuff like that. But bro, against Arsenal, 1990, 180 minutes, man, I don't think we had any chance. Okay, of course, like we had the first in the first leg before they scored, they had the Mbappe one-on-one with Raya, I think, where Raya saved more or less. But I think other than that, like, was there a clear cut chance? I don't think so. We kept having corners on corners. Every cross that Vinicius was making could not get past him, but we could not get past the first man. And we kept having corners upon corners, and you keep pinging them in, and they kept getting out. I think there was one where Kylian Mbappe actually headed the ball, and I think that was the only corner actually where we got our head on the ball. You know,
And it was,
where
what frustrates me is that Rodrigo puts all of them to the near post, and it doesn't work out.
exactly, it's crazy,
There's
man.
nobody at the
Honestly,
near post. The bloody box presence is just abysmal for us, because on a night where we need goals out of nothing, right? Obviously, we've attempted to put crosses in the box, but where are your men in the box? Why is Mbappe not even anywhere close to your penalty spot, right? And when he is, he's half the time he's trying to earn, a penalty, which is all right, but your primary reason to be in the box is to try and win a header, or to cause some problem, which obviously it's not his game. You could make an argument for that, but in that situation, at that moment, that's what you have to do for your team, which a player like Jude was more often than not trying to do, but he was really, really well marked by the Arsenal defense. So I felt like we were putting crosses into nowhere. Even, well, at least back in Zidane's time, there was some sort of back, you know, back post runs, there was some box presence to put crosses into. Now it's just blind efforts, and it's not leading to anywhere. So Alaba puts in a cross, and then it reaches Rodrigo, or Vasquez puts in a cross, it reaches Vinicius, who
Bro,
again,
let's talk about Alaba, man. Like we're in a game where we need to win, and
yeah,
you're playing a centre back as a fullback.
he's not even fit. Did you think he was fit
Bro.
watching that performance?
But then again, you look at it like Frank Garcia came on, and in the
And
90th plus 7 minute, Martinelli was running past him. Bro, you
he
literally
added
just came
nothing
on.
to
The
the
man
game.
has been playing from the first minute, bro. Like, where are the legs? Holy God. So that makes you no left back. See, the thing is, it's like, I do feel like why I'm not too confident about Carlo losing his job is that they're gonna go back and review the season and be like, oh, but Mendy was out, Carvajal was out. He had no centre back. He had to play with a kid from the academy. Dani Ceballos was supposed to replace Tony Cruz. Dani Ceballos was out. Let's give him a leeway and like, oh yeah, there were a lot of players that were missing maybe because of that. Even whoever the coach was, he would not be able to do stuff, and that's why for me, I'm not too confident about the whole Carlo is out or Carlo is in thing.
But again, when you have this conversation, when you say they is the board, do you think the board has the humility to accept that? Why did Carlo Ancelotti not have the depth to replace some of his best defenders in the first place? That was because of our incompetence, as in the board. So do you think they have that sort of conscience to accept their fault? So in keeping Ancelotti, they're essentially accepting fault.
But the point is like the reason why Carlo is here in the first place is because of the fact that Carlo is a yes man. Carlo is someone who's not going to rock the boat. Carlo is just going to go with the flow of whatever they have. If the
Yeah,
target is
fair
to
enough.
wait for a defender in 2 years, Carlo is going to be, yeah, let's go like that. Let's go with the flow and wait for a defender in 2 years. So
Right,
this is
and
the
then
thing. Like I think
Zidane would
Carlo
have
is
long
is one
resigned.
of the only coaches, at least one of the only elite coaches right now that will accept that.
Right, right.
Zidane left, like Zizou left because he felt they weren't backing him during the second stint.
Yeah,
He left because
and
he felt
Zidane
there was
was
no backing.
different. Hmm.
So that's why I feel like, it's a bit of an iffy situation, honestly. But yeah, crazy, man. Honestly, absolutely crazy. The cross upon cross upon cross. And then you look at on one side, it's David Alaba. On the other side, it's Lucas Vasquez, bro. God, holy me, water. Jesus, bro.
It was just haram ball. Even when we were at it, it was just haram ball.
We were not even at it, bro. What at were we at? We were not even at,
When
we
we
were
looked
playing.
slightly likely to
We were
score.
playing without any intensity. You would assume that we were 3-0 up. I swear. You would
Absolutely.
assume we were the ones who were 3-0 up. We were playing with no intensity, no urgency, no even commitment, man. There was no commitment from this group of players.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was really, really absolutely shambolic.
And the Arsenal defense, I know you can say that, okay, they were composed and they held their lines. Obviously, they were good in defense, but apart from keeping their shape, like they didn't have much to do with how
Exactly,
abysmal we were.
exactly.
Like
At
if
least
you
test
told
them.
them at
Let
the
us see.
beginning of the night that all they had to do was sit there in their box and head out crosses, they would have said yes 10 out of 10 times, right?
Crazy. At least, okay, we're hearing about this famed Arsenal defense. Test them. Let's see how good they are. But you
Exactly.
didn't even do that, bro. God. Anyways, let's go into some of the comments and then we can see where we go from there. So we have Hashik. Hashik, as usual, yeah. He says it's 500 million for Vini, right? Cash in now and use that money to sign players in problem area. And fire the manager if possible right now. Well, I don't know what do you have to say about that. Get the Saudi money for Vinicius.
Nah, it's just a bit too extreme. He's still one of the two players that form the face of this club, and regardless of, I know he's not taking up the responsibility that he's supposed to, and he's obviously gone out there after his Ballon d'Or disappointment, and he's said things that he now can't take back. But his only option now is to go back and actually do it 10 times or over. Obviously, I would not sell him, but there would be a lot of scrutiny on his head more than Mbappe, because Mbappe is actually given out the returns, at least in terms of numbers, in his first season. So there's that's saving him. And Jude he's been on and off, but he's been there and thereabouts. And the only person you can blame is Vinicius, and Rodrigo as well, a little bit. I can't lie. Rodrigo, it's not as if he's been excluded from the team. He just doesn't have the kind of spotlight, the media attention that the other three have, which is for his sake probably for the best. But even he hasn't produced when it's come down to it. So yeah,
Well, speaking about that now, you mentioned all these players. For me, when the season began, I actually was very, very clear in my mind that the way forward is not to play the front three. Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Kylian Mbappe cannot coexist in the same space without losing a lot of balance in the team.
yeah.
And
And you were saying
again,
this from the beginning, I remember.
yeah. So now again, we come to this point again where the season, in my opinion, is gone. Anyways, like we're in April and yeah, we're still here, like talking about like balance and everything. The season is gone. If we can find balance till April, you're not gonna find it in May. I mean, we're gonna find it in June in preseason. Not, that's just the point. There is nothing to do anymore. So, like, do you think that it's possible to have this three in this team?
It did seem possible for a bit, but that was only because of and as a direct result of Dani Ceballos' form. And that is what patched things up in defensive midfield, played as a six, played as an eight when he was asked to. Uh, but there was that illusion, definitely, for a couple of months. And then Ceballos gets
Sorry,
injured.
just hold on. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
Bro, we played with Ceballos against Barcelona, no? We played with Ceballos against Atletico Madrid, no? Did we win any of those matches?
Yeah, that is true. But again, there
So
was
I
a
mean,
glimpse of balance.
let's
I'm not
create this
saying there was
situation.
balance. We came close to achieving it, and there was not a result of these three playing any differently than they usually do. It wasn't that. Obviously, there was an illusion of balance. That's the word I used. It wasn't them. Obviously, if you take Sebastian out of the equation, it's even worse. But we were close to achieving that.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, I know Danny Ceballos allowed us to play better, but it does not mean that we found that balance. No, we had to go to the pens to to knock out Atletico Madrid. And let's not forget
Yeah.
what happened in the pen. The double kick by, what's he called? Alvarez.
Julian Alvarez.
That was the whole turning point of the whole tie,
Yeah.
you know? And we know, of course, what happened against, we played Barcelona twice. We conceded 9 goals in 2 games. I think one of them
It's
there
not
was not Dani
completely
Ceballos, and
nice.
one of them there was Dani Ceballos. But anyways, like, so the point I'm trying to make here is that it's not like we were firing on all cylinders.
No, we
We
weren't.
lost to
At no
Milan.
point were we
We lost to
firing
AC
on.
Milan. We lost to Liverpool. We were 2
Yeah.
0 down at the Bernabeu against Borussia Dortmund.
We lost to
So
Milan.
when you look at this big, all this big, all the big ties, and all of them, we play Bilbao. You look at those games and you're like, oh, but I mean, we lost to Valencia. We're like literally 16th. You look at this and you kind of feel like something has to give. And the reason why I'm just keeping pondering on this first comment is that is it time to actually cash in on one of these attackers? I know Mbappe is not going to go because he just joined, and like he's literally the dream child of
Neither of the other two.
Perez. You understand?
Only one could possibly leave is Rodrigo.
I don't think Vini or Rodrigo. I think I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I'm not too sure about Vinicius Junior as well. I would rather keep Rodrigo than keep Vini because I feel like the high of Vini is very high, but his low is lower than Porsche, bro. But I think the high of for Rodrigo is not as high as that. It's not as high as that Vini, but his low is absolutely definitely higher than the low of Vini.
Yeah, that I do agree with.
Vinicius is a negative when he's not on song.
Yeah, and it's continued to be the trend these days that he has one good game and then two or three very, very subpar games where he just goes missing. Do you think that sort of humility that this tie brings was somewhat needed? I hope it does resonate with somebody like Vinicius. But like the 4-0 at City, we respected City even before that game. But I don't think our fan base and our players quite knew the extent to which Arsenal could, play around us before this tie was played. I
I
do think
agree.
that there was an element of us understating how good this
Yep.
opponent was, or
Yep. 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 Yep.
taking them lightly in
I
this
for one took
competition.
them lightly. I felt like, okay, it's going to be a tie. It's going to be a difficult tie, but I just felt like,
Yeah.
it's not going to be more than that. It's not going to be just one. Oh, it was a tricky one. Like we got, maybe you say, oh, we got lucky to escape the Emirates. With just 2-1 down or 1-0 down or 2-0 down or shit like that. But eventually you
Right.
get the job done and knock them out. But yeah, we've seen that. When once this team face any element of a solid team organization, we absolutely crumble. We absolutely crumble. So
And
moving
then
on, we have
who would have done
actually.
worse against Inter had we gone through?
Oh, bro, man! Even Paris, man, like Paris would have ate us for breakfast. Paris would have ate us for
For sure,
breakfast,
for sure.
honestly. Well, anyways, that's not our problem anymore. We're out of the tournament, so like, yeah, everything is just hypothetical. Inter, Bayern, Borussia, whatever it
I
is.
do think
That's.
Inter are favorites from here on, though.
I don't know. Let's see, man. Let's see how the matchup with Barcelona goes, because I actually do think like the Barcelona team, it's crazy. It's really crazy. And as we've said before, like even from the preseason, you can see the impact that coaches can have. Even from the
Right.
preseason, you saw what Hansi Flick wanted to do with Barcelona. We're here 4 seasons in. We don't know what Carlo wants to do with this team. Of course, we know like there've been different iterations: Benzema, Toni Kroos, Nacho, all those guys. But here we still don't know what Carlo wants to do with this team. Impact of an elite coach, man. That's just the impact of an elite coach. Ashik was saying Perez and the board should also bear the blame as well. Very true, but I mean, we know nothing's going to happen to Perez or the board. He was saying like we're lucky to walk away with the 5-1 aggregate. I could not disagree. Everything random was saying where's the actual host who want to taste his tears. And Rajat was saying hi to the panel. Hello, Rajat. And yeah, Sunay was actually answering to the guy that, yeah, he's right there and wishing them good luck on their UCL journey. And Daniel Emmanuel was here saying, big up, guys. And Ashik was talking about we're not saving the season and we are not winning Copa del Rey. I'm more concerned about giving Barca the CEO. Carlo is on the road to embarrass us this season. That would be the icing on the cake. I think we still have, I think the Pasir is still something that's still far away. And Daniel Soleimano was saying, Farouk, to be honest, yeah, I'm highly disappointed with our overall performance this season. And questions need to be asked about Carlo this season. Yeah, we've rightly pointed that out. Sunil was talking about Arsenal discipline is the secret to their dominance across 2 legs. And Ashik was saying, since losing the Mickey Mouse Trophy to Rodri, Vinny's football IQ has gone down the drain. Doesn't know when to rotate position, when to pass, when to drop the shoulder, just run at the D every time. And Mohamed Sune's aimless crosses into who never got it tonight. Ashik was answering to Sune, yes, discipline, that's the key word. Didn't make careless tackles and give away anything from vantage source. They stay compact and play professional over 2 legs. And Sunil was saying Carlos' comment hints at an immediate exit. That is before the Club World Cup. Well, I doubt that, but let's see. Uh, Daniel Solimano was saying Mbappe, Rodrigo, and Vinicius are such a disappointment to watch this season. For heaven's sakes, this game, CR7, Benzema, and Bale will have spilled their blood out just to make things happen for us. And Ashik was saying, why are we crossing when we have zero aerial threat? Someone forget to tell them that CR7 and Ramos Benz doesn't play for us anymore. I mean, that's the point. These guys, they don't even play with CR7 and Bill, Ramos. I mean, this guy, okay, Lucas Vasquez played with them, but like, Frank didn't play with them. David Alaba didn't play with them. So what crosses are they whipping where to who? So it's
It's a
really
last ditch
pathetic.
effort, Farouk. We've all played football. When you can't break a low block down, by playing through them, you try and play over and around them. And it's crossing into the box. It's a last ditch effort, which I don't mind, but at least do it properly. Then have somebody on the other end of the crosses.
Crazy, man. Crazy. Here we come and like this
Fuck it, at this
Ashik
point,
was saying,
Rudiger,
all
I
right.
wouldn't mind as a number 9. If Arsenal can have Merino at number 9,
But that's the thing, like, like the idea is to have a different profile, which is what we don't have. And it also gives us a different profile, but Caro doesn't trust the kind of profile that he's using.
he's very raw.
Understand? So that's the thing. Like in that case, then you get a journeyman to do the job. We saw last season, as we saw with what's his name? Joselu. You get a journeyman to do your job. It's easy. You can find these guys, give them a 1 year contract. They're super happy to sit on the bench and play 5, 10 minutes every year and there. This is the thing. Find a journeyman who just can literally, be an able physical body in that box.
Right.
Literally, Kivio, Saliba, Rice, the Timber, they were eating us for lunch, man. Thomas Party as well. So yeah. Anyways, Daniel's Daniel Sonimano was saying like there is no excuse for who Carlo has to go. Football has evolved, but Carlo refused to change his way of play. Bro, we created nothing across two legs. And Ashik was saying, let me just simplify. He was actually saying the fact that we suck. That's just it, pretty much. In simple two words, we suck. And that's just it. And so he was saying my voice is a bit muffled. I don't know if it's still muffled or not. And yeah, Sunaid was also mentioned the fact that the board wrote the season off. If they were any serious, they would have done something in January. The signs were always there. I don't think so because I don't think Real Madrid does stuff in January.
We never
I
do
don't know.
stuff again. Exactly.
Do you think? I don't know. Do you share the opinion that the board has wrote the season off?
Say again?
Do you share the opinion that the board wrote the season off by not doing anything in January?
Not in January, but just in general. Probably even in the summer, we could have seen this coming. In the pre-season preview, I'm sure things like this will have been mentioned. Like, what if one of your fullbacks gets injured? Who have you got, filling in for him? What if one of the front four don't fire? Then do you have an aerial presence in the box, right? Was discussed was discussing Tony Cruz's absence, not something that you remember, or discussing Joselu's absence, not signing a replacement for him. All of these things were elementary and they were all discussed. But yeah, the board, I think they definitely did have a hand in how the season panned out, but I don't think they would have done anything in January because the
Yeah,
market
that's
especially is so inflated in January, and I'm sure that's their main reply to all of this. And by no means is bringing Trent Alexander-Arnold going to fix any of this.
that's the point I was going to make. Like the point is, if the idea is to throw this season, then the point is that in the summer you're expecting something big to happen. But I
No,
sit here speaking to you that I would not be surprised if the only action that happens is the arrival of
it's
Trent and the
Trent.
market closes. So does that mean they also throw next season in the garbage as well? Is that like, I mean, if that's the case, then that's what it's gonna go. Because I don't know why it seems to it will be something. It will take something monumental for an addition to be brought to this league. It says.
Unless the manager changes.
Well, that's the question now you come to ask. Managerial change. Okay, Carlo goes, but who comes?
It's between promoting Raul and bringing in Shabi, unless Jurgen Klopp wants to, has a change of mind. And I've heard that he isn't particularly enjoying his time at Red Bull, but I do think that's rather far fetched. But I do think it's between Shabi and Raul. I
I
don't think
think
Zidane is a good idea anymore. Like, because you know how it ends with Zidane, right? Zidane is gonna have a good couple of stable years, and as long as that's all the board want out of him, that's fine. But beyond that, if you're looking to keep him long term, then there are certain things that will that he will not agree with, and in terms of how the club is going to be run. And perhaps Ancelotti doesn't have, he doesn't mind it, but a guy like Zidane certainly will. So it's a 2 year process with Zidane. With someone like Xabi and Raul, obviously you're thinking long term.
well, that's the thing, right? So like the issue now becomes this, like the way Real Madrid have always worked. Real Madrid doesn't work with a system manager. So the point now becomes like if you're bringing someone like Alonso in, Alonso needs the time to imprint his ideas onto these players.
Right.
So will they give him the time? This is also a question that needs to be asked. Will the club allow the players to grow with this guy? Because now you're going to think, oh, we have Mbappe, we have Vinicius. Like, what growth are we talking about? What development are we talking about? But you need to grow with the coach. You need to,
Yeah, absolutely.
add into the system what the coach. Of course, like it can happen in the
So
first season. Maybe it's not going to take long forever and ever. But again, it's that like, what's the strategy of the club? What's the strategy of the board? Like, are we always gonna? Do we still want to go in the direction of people like Carlo? Zidane, those guys who are like more lax.
yeah,
When it comes to like disciplinary issues and like they're more
no,
towards man managers
I
than
do
rather
think
than
Raul
greater
is very different in
tacticians.
that. Yeah, but
You
Raul
know,
is very different in that sense. He's more of a Diego Simeone type manager on the sideline, especially in the way he's animated and the way he pumps up his team. And he's obviously the easier hiring. Like you just have to promote him from within the club. You don't have to go out
exactly.
there in the market and fetch him. So that's there.
Yeah, that's true as
And
well.
it does
That's
make
true.
more sense for the club to hand the project over to Raul as opposed to Shabi because of the exact point that you mentioned. Shabi is someone who needs a fresh project, a clean slate that we do not have.
Well, crazy, honestly, crazy. Let's go here. It's like so you were saying everyone wants to sacrifice Rodrigo, everybody ball to feet, no willingness to give us some CV, anything to think about. And I also was saying I love Rodrigo, but I genuinely think he needs to step up his game. As well can be getting lost by 18-year-old over two legs. Ashik was saying tonight, keep Rodrigo. I would not blame him if he show commitment in defense as well. But I would never understand why Carlo will always bench him and never take Vinny off. Carlos' favoritism is intolerable. And the Daniel Emmanuel was saying totally agree for Rook. I don't know our playing style since Carlo came back to this team. And Elaborate Tiger was here, was saying definitely a disappointing loss, but I think it's a mistake for people to act like this is the end of an era. People have said that many times about Madrid in the past 25 years, and they will definitely bounce back. Sunil was saying end of an era for one man, definitely. I wanted my Luca to walk off with a proper season, but yeah, we just don't deserve anything this season. So end of an era. Do you think that's a very, I don't know, pessimistic way of looking at it?
What, Real Madrid in the Champions League? Absolutely not. But Carlo Ancelotti at Real Madrid, you could make a solid case for it. I don't think Real Madrid are going to, you know, I don't think Real Madrid are going to stop being good in the Champions League. This happens once every few years. I think we all remember the reaction after um, the year we went out to Ajax, right? The seasons after that, and the past couple of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons, where we've won the Champions League a couple of times, involving a lot of dramatic UCL comebacks, second legs at the Bernabeu, all of that stuff, right? All of that has fed into this narrative that we are, vibes club, and then I'm pretty sure that is now all breaking down because we've been spoiled, right? I'm sure
Yeah,
you'll agree.
yeah, true,
And it had to
100%.
end at some point. Some team was going to come along and beat us fair and square, and Arsenal were the team to do that. I would actually be very disappointed if we were beaten by a worse club than Arsenal,
Well,
like a worse team. Just to say, like so I would be disappointed if a team came in and shithoused their way to a win against us.
yeah, I definitely want you to understand what you're saying. Like the point is like you lost fair and square. There's nothing you can talk about. It's not like yeah,
Exactly.
it was just a moment of it was a 1-0 and everyone was like rushing up and down. That's the thing. Like there's absolutely nothing to say. You lost to the best team and just we are like gentlemen. Just take the loss and move on. And that's the thing. End of an era or not, but the thing I just want for me is like, let my team at least put in a fight. Let my team be there, let my team show an effort, like it's because like what we saw across the one, not even just these two games, like across the whole season, it's just a team that's just, willing itself to victories by individual brilliance. It's not like you're playing and
Right.
winning because you're better. You're just willing
Right.
yourself. Like your players all of a sudden clicks one day, they score. It doesn't click the other day, they draw or they lose, So that's how it's just always been like. So yeah. Anyways, let's go on and here with Tony was saying Rodrigo is just better compared to Vini. I can't defend him anymore. And Dipanjan was saying Xabi Alonso in. And Tony was saying he was talking about the earbuds. He was also saying like without a proper striker, I don't know what we're thinking. That's my concern. And we have Daniel's son Emmanuel saying, "Give me an Osimhen, a proper number nine." So this goes back to the thing what I was bringing up earlier. Do you pick one player out of this three and get a proper number nine? I don't know, Sir Erling Haaland, Alex Isak, Victor Osimhen. Those, those ilk fox in the box kind of strikers.
Even Gyasi, the guy who scored a hat trick the other day.
Yeah, so he was,
Even
yeah.
someone like him, and he was more of the profile of Joselu, but it's difficult. Like even right now, I just read it. Courtois after the game, he literally mentioned it. We were putting in a lot of crosses, but this year we don't have a Joselu.
So
So
that's the thing, like that's what I'm
the
saying. Like,
lack
no,
of a
where do
number
you
nine.
go? So, like, do you see like, okay, so what would you do? Like, would you get someone like Joselu as similar to last year, whereby you have Joselu as an option off the bench to have a different profile, or would you say,
Yeah,
okay, let's sacrifice one of the front three and get in a proper number nine?
unless Rodrigo wants to leave on his own, I would not. I would rather go for a journeyman and you know even if it is a short-term fix, a temporary solution, I would go for that. But those players are really really difficult to as difficult as it is to find a striker in this market, a good striker. It's even more difficult to find a striker that's both good but also available for a couple years. Like you have to find that in between with these kinds of players, and Joselu at the
I
time
mean,
was perfect.
they are players like that are willing to like do a job like Joselu was willing to do a job. I'm sure they are. I mean, a name that just pops to my head now is like Nicholas Fulkrug, you understand, for instance. You can look at a player like
Mm,
Fulkrug as well, like what he was for Borussia last year. He wasn't the starting, like he wasn't always starting every game, but he was here and there starting some important games, starting not starting some other ones. He's at West Ham this season, literally doing absolutely nothing. So a player like that could give you an option, like, oh,
mm.
So I don't think they're just like, like the club isn't looking in that direction. You understand that
No,
we
exactly.
have.
Those two things have to align.
Exactly. That's the thing. Those two things are like the club has to also look, in certain directions as well. Because I think the idea is that because we have the front three, and then you have Hendrik and Brian Diaz, you kind of feel like, oh yeah, that's well stocked. You don't need, to get anyone else in. But yeah, it is what it is. Like we've seen that this is absolutely a flawed plan. But let's see how that works. And yeah, let's take one more comment and then we can move on. And so it was saying tactics or no tactics, our midfield is shit. We need people who can interpret space well, drop deep, and distribute possession. Basically, you need 20 cross more or less.
We keep
So
going back to this.
yeah, so that's the thing. Like, where do you go from there? Like, so we focus on the offense a lot, like, and we talked a bit about the defense as well. So what do you think about the midfield? Like, where do we go from there?
Oh, there was a definite lack of mobility today because Arsenal just ran through us, and the way Declan Rice does not run through every team the way he ran through Real Madrid, right? He's a world class midfielder. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't put in two man of the match performances every week. So that's the thing, a lack of mobility, and that was more so down to because we didn't have a Kamavinga in there, and Chouameni just isn't as good at ball, at ball progression. And obviously, if when we did put on Modric, it was too late by then, and Ceballos' passing range helps, but it doesn't patch all the gaps necessarily, right? It does a lot, but it doesn't patch all the gaps. To me, it's fundamentally the most crucial thing is when Valverde and Bellingham click. So when these two are on song, I think the problems are rather foreshadowed, like our mobility that fixes itself because Bellingham's just an intense runner. Valverde is the living heartbeat of this midfield. So when these two are on song, it does feel like life is a lot easier. But on nights like these, when even those two weren't, anywhere near the ball, uh, it was difficult to watch that midfield.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but anyways, man, it is what it is. Like, what's happened has happened. Just one thing I do know is that irrespective of a shambolic midfield or lack thereof, we should definitely not be putting up such a meek performance, man. This was absolutely shambolic, but
True.
yeah, yeah. So like,
And
yeah,
Farouk,
go on.
I'm sure myself and Sunaid have discussed this at length this, many times in the past few weeks. But I don't think you've been a part of this conversation before. I think we, as a fan base, expected better of both Kamavinga and Tchouaméni than what they've put up this season.
I totally agree. I actually feel like Chouameni has stagnated. Jacob actually told me that he has regressed, but I feel like Chouameni has stagnated. He hasn't taken that growth. He hasn't leaped. But Kamavinga has been injured also, so I can't say anything about Kamavinga, honestly. Kamavinga has been absolutely, like, Kamavinga has been injured. He literally came back when. So you can't, quantify or qualify him. But one thing we do know, even last season when we won the title, Chouameni was the weak link in the midfield.
Right.
Chouameni hasn't taken that next level. Chouameni has not taken that jump. He has literally remained at a certain level, which becomes, of course, it doesn't also help that he's playing different positions, what is and what is on. But Chouameni has not grown into that midfield marshal that you expected, or that you want him to be, when he joined Real Madrid.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's like, let's just round this year by talking about what we expect to see now with the remainder of the season, because we know that now the UCL is over. So
Right.
what happens then? Like, now we have the Copa, literally in, I think, 13 days, 29 April against Barcelona in Seville. And then we have the title 4 points behind Barcelona.
Yeah. And the title particularly, because obviously the Copa del Rey, we're already in the final, and there's very little to talk about that because we know our opponents so well. We know what they're good at, and we're well versed with what Barcelona does. But in the league, we still do have another 5 or 6 games, I think.
Yeah.
No, actually 7 games. So
7. Okay.
and the next two are against two very physical and very tight teams, Athletic Bilbao and Getafe. So winning these 2 games will certainly bring back some of that confidence, and I'm sure Marca and the ROS and all of these guys are going to report there's a lot of anger in the dressing room, and these players are very pumped up and all of that before these games.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I just want to see a reaction in these games, because now the Champions League is beyond us, right? It's past.
Yeah. Yeah.
Starting tonight, there's nothing to play for as far as that's concerned anymore. What we can play for is the league. uh, the Clásico will essentially decide it, because there is only that much between us and Barca, given things do stay the same way, which I don't trust
Yeah.
they will, but it could go either way. But the Copa del Rey final obviously is exciting, because that's a trophy that we haven't won in a while. And every time we do come close to, snatching that trophy, it evades us. So that's the way I look at it. It's it's nothing too complicated. The equation is very simple for Real Madrid. We do not have the the room for error to lose any more games now this season. From now till the end of
Yeah.
the season, not the final, not any of these La Liga games, because it's not on us anymore. Barca have to lose in order for us to win.
I agree, because that's the thing. I think we absolutely have to win straight through, to salvage anything this season. Then also for Carlo Ancelotti to, maybe salvage his job. I think if we win through, we win 2 trophies, the Copa and the league,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
will eventually, equate to not being a shitty season as it has been so far. But yeah, we do have the capability to win through all these matches, But I know, as you said, we played Athletic Bilbao next, we play Getafe, and then after Getafe is the Copa del Rey final. I think then we play Celta, and then we play Barcelona in the league. So it's more or less like we have a stretch of 5 games that literally it determines if, we enter, we end the season, celebrating something or not. So it's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, we heard all these things about all the players were, shouting, talking about comebacks and this and that. Yeah, bro, we came up, we saw what they meant by that. They literally showed absolutely nothing. They really did not care. So it's fair game. It's fair game, So that's the thing. Like, we just don't believe anything we hear from this place. We just have to see what they do first, like how their reaction is across the next 5 games. That's what would tell us that if actually this defeat was humbling, if this defeat, mattered to them or not, or if it's just, business as usual for those guys.
Right. And I don't doubt that we can go on and win all these games, even with the state that our season is in. I do think that if a reaction comes about, then it's going to be deadly. And I'm not one of those fans that, even though I don't, I am a critic of Carlos this season. As the season has progressed, I've more and more, I've found reasons to, scrutinize his ways. but I'm not going to wish for my team to lose just so Carlo can get fired. And I'm
Yeah,
sure there are a
definitely.
fair few of those in among our fan base.
Definitely, absolutely makes no sense. If we win and Carlos stays, then so be it. Let's win, bro.
Yeah,
That's just the
exactly.
thing. Like, I mean, why would I care if Carlos gets out or not? I mean, let's win. That's the thing. Like, cause like, yeah, today was a heart crushing, like a soul breaking uh game. Honestly, the last two games, this especially this game, man. Because at least for the first game, we'd be like, oh, we're shell shocked. We don't know what we're in. But like now, you know the goal. You know that you need to score three to have a chance in this tie.
Exactly.
And across 97 minutes, it didn't even look like you really cared. It didn't look like you have a chance. So it's very unfortunate. Anyways, Kyle, I think let's slowly wrap things up. Let's just
Sure,
shout
yeah.
out our partners on Instagram, Real Madrid Committee. So just give them a look, give them a shout out, and just a reminder that we're part of the official Talksport Fan Network, and also like a shout out to our sponsors for this episode, Manscaped. So you can go to Manscaped for all the man grooming equipments and tools that's required. You can find the link in the description below. You can use LBR20 to get 20% discount, and also like Fanatics as well. The links there in the description below. And until next time, we sign off by saying Hala Madrid.